Well, what's up, guys, and welcome back to Tech Plant. Today I'm going to talk to you about the most underrated and easy plants to care for. Let's check it out.
Alright, so all the plants we're going to be talking about today are three things: cheap, easy, and underrated. So first on our list is Monstera Deliciosa. I know a lot of people collect this, but I think a lot of people look past this plant at this point as it not being rare anymore, very common, and I think people really forget about this plant. The Monstera Deliciosa is still one of my top favorite plants to have because it's very dynamic and there's a lot of variation in it. It's also probably one of the most hardiest plants I've had. It can handle extreme waterings, extreme droughts, a lot of light, a very small amount of light. It is just overall fantastic. This plant is also really unique in the sense that it can be a beginner plant, but also become a master's plant. And what I mean by that is it can start out small and be this unruly little bushy vining plant, but if you really understand how to grow this thing properly, up a plank, up a wall, and really get it to its mature size, it will blow you away with the leaves that it can produce. Next up is a little personal favorite of mine, and that is the spider plant. I think a lot of people forget about these plants. I swear this feels like one from my parents' generation. I always remember seeing these growing up as a kid, and I've always loved them. They have a very unique growth style compared to many plants. The mother plant will produce all sorts of vines that will hang down, and after flowering and producing seed, it will also start to produce baby spider plants. I really love this plant for its appearance and what it can do. This plant has handled extreme droughts. I'm talking bone dry soil for many days, and it's bounced back perfectly fine. It's also handled major overwaterings just fine as well. It is super hardy. It can handle low light, high light, and it's just an awesome plant to have. Again, the growth style is so unique with this one, and it allows for lots of propagation experiments and just sharing of this plant. I do have a video, actually two videos about this plant. One is propagating the plant different ways, and the other is actually growing this plant from seed produced from the mother plant. It's a very interesting plant that can allow you to try different things and learn a lot about growing houseplants. If you don't have this plant, it's definitely worth picking up, but instead of trying to buy one, I can almost guarantee you can find someone giving babies away because it is such a fast spreader, and again, it's totally worth having. Here's another spider plant that I own. This one is actually grown completely by seed from the previous mother plant. So the previous one was variegated, but all the seedlings were just the regular green style. So again, there's some variation in how these spider plants look, and it's just a really cool learning tool. So you definitely need to find and get yourself one of these because it's a lot of fun and will help you grow as a houseplant enthusiast. Next up is Syngoniums or arrow plants. I think these are really hardy plants that are easy to care for. They can handle a variety of lighting situations, and they do pretty darn good in dry situations and wet situations. They also come in a huge variety. There are so many different variations, different cultivars. They come from pink, green, almost white. There's like albo variegated ones. There's more than I could ever list. There's so many. It is such a varied, awesome plant. I love the different leaves that this thing can produce, especially my albo one or the variegated one that I have. It's absolutely phenomenal. Each leaf is super unique and just has amazing patterns. If you don't have this plant, there's a lot of cheap ones out there. It's a really cool one to start collecting. This next plant is a Raphidophora Tetrasperma. This one is also pretty easy to care for, and it's a really awesome fast growing plant. This is one of the first quote-unquote rare plants that I ever got. Years ago, this was a really hot, hard to find plant. Now it's really easy to find and cheap, but I paid a decent amount for it and I've loved it ever since. It's really fun to propagate, although a little slow, but once it starts growing, I swear it's faster than Pothos. Thanks to tissue culture, there's also been a mutation that was created. It's got a totally different leaf style. It's really weird looking. It almost looks a little sick, but there were a bunch of these in the market at a certain time, and now I haven't really seen any more of them. So I'm not going to say it's rare, but it's kind of a cool little collector's item if you have one that is all mutated and weird. And it's a stable mutation. It's been like this for over probably a year and a half now. One of the main reasons I love this plant is it can tolerate a bunch of different conditions like every plant in this list, and it can cover a space really well. I love the way it's taken over this corner, and just the leaves remind me of Monstera leaves, which is why one of its common names is Mini Monstera. So it's just a fantastic plant. If you like Monstera Deliciosa, you'll love this one as well. It's a really cool plant to pick up. They're cheap nowadays and they're hardy, and it's just great to have. The number one top plant on this list, the most easy to take care of, underrated, cheapest, awesomest plant is going to be Pothos. Plant snobs everywhere will roll their eyes over this plant, but it's honestly such an amazing plant. There are so many variations, and similar to the Monstera Deliciosa, this starts out as a beginner plant that most people get when they're just starting out. But there's a secret to this plant that a lot of people are starting to figure out, and as you master the craft in growing houseplants, you can really bring out some stunning aspects to the pothos plant. What you were looking at just before was a jade pothos, and this beast is also a jade pothos. So when you start growing these things up planks or moss poles and you get them to a mature size, they can get absolutely massive. And this is what I mean by this plant really grows with you. When you're inexperienced, you grow this plant, it just seems like the normal plant you found in the stores. But once you start to learn more about aeroids and you kind of get the hang of things, you can start really pushing the boundaries with pothos. It's a really amazing, awesome, diverse plant. Right now my collection of pothos is pretty small and I only have a few different variations, but there are so many out there. There's more than I can count, and I see new ones like every other few months. It's like they're coming out with new ones somehow magically. I don't know what they're doing, if they're just selecting for them or what, but pothos is extremely varied. You can find so many cool varieties. If you are not a fan of pothos, it's just because you haven't seen a variety you like yet, because there are really that many. I love it. I like watching every new leaf pop out. The variegation on some of them is insane. So many people are chasing after these quote unquote rare variegated plants when they can get an amazing one that produces amazing patterns for like $10 at Walmart or Home Depot. You're seriously sleeping on pothos if you're not picking one of these up. There's a lot of cool ones to collect. It's almost like Pokemon. I love them, and I think pothos is probably one of the most underrated plants that's also easy to care for and grows with you as a plant enthusiast.
Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, these plants are all pretty darn easy to care for. They're low stress, low maintenance. They can handle a varied amount of conditions. And in my opinion, I think they should be in everyone's collection. Nowadays, every single one of the plants I listed is really cheap, really affordable, and they're just really cool plants to have. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.